Hey, what's up everyone? We have a couple firmware updates to talk about. So today, RANE released Performer and 4 firmware updates. Now these are two separate updates. The Performer update is firmware version 1.3.0.13, and the RANE 4 update is firmware version 1.8.0.18. Both of these are available on rane.com/downloads. I did a little Instagram reel for RANE that we released with the update, and since I have everything set up still in the little studio, I was like, let's just do a full ramble through feature video where I talk about the primary features added and show you how to access them. So really the first thing to note, the primary new features, some of these were added with the previous RANE Performer update, and I'll kind of like explain that as I talk through them. But first, I have a RANE 4 here. We'll talk through these features on the 4 first. But to access your menu, Shift and the hardware software effects button is how you get there. So one of the first features I'll show you is in the main menu, there's a touch item, and you select that, and there's a new sensitivity option. So you can scroll through that now and adjust your jog wheel touch capacitive sensitivity from low to very high. And so I haven't tried low, I only kept it on very high, so I'll put it on low and we'll see what happens. Still pretty touchy, right? There are a few points there where I tapped it didn't do anything. So that would be, I guess, if you're just kind of like a big sloppy-handed DJ and you're hitting cue points like this or something, and you don't want to hit the jog wheel. That would be low. But like I just put it on very high because I want it to stop when I touch it. So very high. So touch jog sensitivity adjustment, that is on the update for the RANE 4. Now the big one that I like that comes to both the RANE 4 and the Performer with these updates is the ability to swap the stems effects behavior of these acapella and instrumental buttons. So by default, if I were to press it without holding shift, it'll just isolate the acapella or the instrumental. This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich. So that is the default behavior. But if I switch it, which is the way I would do it honestly, there's a menu item called Acapella Instrumental Effects. You go over there, Acapella Instrumental Effects. The options are Shift or Primary. And so what that means is if we're at the default, which is Shift, if I hold Shift and hit one of these, it'll echo out the other part. But you have to hold Shift to do that. So when you adjust this to the setting of Acapella Instrumental Effects Primary, it will do that stems effects echoing out the part that's removed. It'll do that automatically without holding Shift, which I think is the optimum way to do it, honestly. This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? So how cool is that? You can just isolate that and add the stem effects without it being set to make you hold Shift. So I think that's awesome. I would leave that one on primary all day, every day. Okay, so that comes to the RANE 4 and the Performer. And next, we have another little feature that was suggested, I believe, by Mojax originally, and Jason on the product team also wanted this particular feature added, but it basically means that if you have an effect that you want to assign to a pad, like right now I have pitch down on this button selector, and I also have pitch down assigned to this. Now previously, if I wanted to adjust this to a certain beat division like 1 and save it, it would save it on this slot, but then since I have pitch down on this slot, it would also set that to a beat division of 1. But now you can independently save 2 different beat divisions or 2 different links or whatever parameters. You can set them for multiple effects on different buttons. So now I can have pitch down as a 1 beat division and then an 1/8 on this other one. Yeah, so pretty cool. So that's a kind of a niche little feature, but If you want to set 6 different echoes with different beat divisions and lengths and high pass filter, high pass frequency cutoffs and things like that, you can do that and set multiple effects on different pads, different buttons with different settings. And that comes to both the Performer and the 4 with this update. Now another one that already came to the Performer with the previous update, but now comes to the 4, is the ability to set your key adjust buttons to be long press only. So before, the pitch bend buttons are right here, and I'm as guilty as anybody else. Sometimes I'll hit the key adjust buttons. But now there's an option in the menu. Let's get into it by holding Shift and pressing the Hardware Software FX button. Now there's an option for key adjust to be long press or normal. So normal, you can just tap it once and it adjusts. But long press means you have to long press the button for it to take effect. See, nothing. But if I long press it, now it goes into effect. And I can go ahead and adjust it up and down until it times out again. And then when it times out again, I think it's like 3 seconds. You might have to check me on that. And it goes back to long press to engage. So again, that's another great little feature that I would just leave on as long press because I think it's a little handier. Looks like we lost a light in the corner, but it's a little dark, but you guys can see what I'm doing. Again, this is just a one take off the cuff, so we're going to roll with it. Next up, so that is the long press. Again, that came to RANE 4 on this update. It was on the RANE Performer previous firmware update. So another one that came to both on this update is the ability to, before we always had a mic echo effect. And while I'm talking about that, I might as well say now with this update, and this was on the previous Performer update, it would sync to the BPM of whatever selected in my window here. So this is normally what your effects would sync to on the BPM. This is your right deck's 85, 90's the left deck. So now automatically when I engage an echo, it automatically syncs to whatever BPM is selected. So at 85 right now, if I went over to here, it'd be 90. Yep. And just to show you, I can tap into higher tempo. Check. See how it's just really fast. But when I select the playing deck, 85, it'll time out. Check. Yep. So that's a nice little feature. It syncs to whatever BPM is on the deck. Now, what I was going to say about the microphone reverb, effect. Now that is coming to both the 4 and the Performer in their recent update. Now inside of the main menu, again Shift and Hardware Software Effects button, we can go to microphone, we can go over to effect, and instead of just echo, we also have a reverb we can select. So now I have a reverb on the mic, but I can also go back, dial down the feedback. Check. Get that down a little bit, more manageable. And then I can also go through, change the reverb size. So it's like the size of the room, basically. To something a little less vast. And then I can also go through and also change the reverb delay. I can change all these settings, and I can basically just dial in the reverb how I like it. And then from there, I can also use the wet and dry to adjust it as necessary. So now you have a reverb effect on your mic, and you have plenty of settings to adjust to use that. Honestly, I think it's cool. I probably would use echo before I'd use reverb, but that's just me. But now there's an option for all of you to choose between reverb and echo on your mic, both with this new update. And let's see, what else do we have? I think those are the primary new features. I do want to say we have been hearing some users, and a friend of mine also texted me about this, and I've never seen it, but the play pause button sometimes would double click basically. And we talked to a guy at NAMM that was experiencing the same thing. It's kind of an isolated incident with, I've heard maybe 2-3 people talk about it, but the engineers looked into it and they introduce some stuff with this firmware. So if you have that issue where you're pushing the play button and it's double clicking and playing again, or it's delaying when you push play, with this update for the 4, specifically for the 4, now I've only heard of this issue with the RANE 4. This update, version 1.8.0.18 for the 4, has some stuff in there to remedy that issue. So if you're one of the DJs that have that issue with your play pause button is not hitting that cue every single time, or it's not behaving as expected every single time, just do the firmware update. Should fix that for you. But okay, I think that is it for this firmware update. Just to recap, RANE Performer and RANE 4 each got a firmware update today. Go to rane.com/downloads to grab it and install it. Super easy. And you'll receive some nice new features with this update. All right. Hope that was helpful. If you have questions, I'll do my best to help you. Drop them in the comments below and enjoy. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out.